Hey everybody, David here. I thought I'd give an update and then we can do the next bits. See some more speed up montage of what I'm doing. I have been fiddling with this dome for a while now. Fiddling isn't complete. I haven't done it on every single side. But I put in windows in these sorts of windows. Instead of just having it on the side, on the straight sides, put it on the diagonal. It's a pain because you have to use a block instead of a pane, but now that I spin around it, it looks a lot better. I've also added the pillar texture. Oops. In the middle. You can't really see it from afar, but even if you can't notice that it's there, it seems to add something. So it's feeling a little bit more awesome dome-ish instead of just sort of not quite right. I also put a thingy on the top because the thingy on the top was kind of cool. I don't think it's quite to scale, but at least it adds another layer to the shape. I finally managed to upgrade this game specifically, this level to 17, to 1.17, and so I've been experimenting with copper. I obviously replaced the entire roof with copper, but I've been experimenting with different sort of with the corroding pattern. I don't think I've got it, but I may actually just sort of, I don't know, maybe let it happen naturally, like redo the whole thing in orange, the non-corrupted block, and then just let nature, in as much as Minecraft is nature, sort of do a pattern, and then I can wax the pattern in so it stays corroded in a weird pattern and go from there, because me making a pattern isn't really working with this game. So what we're doing today is I've been researching different facades to fill in the bits. I've done the wireframing to fill in the bits. My current goal is this bit here. What I want is I need to widen it so it's 20 meters instead of 14 wide in the middle in this bit, because it's a bit narrow at the moment. And what I want is to turn it into, like, I don't know, like a hall of residence or something. So what I want is to have sort of relatively narrow buildings all stuck together in a row with different textures, different block palette, and so it looks like, I'm hoping it'll look like a row of independent buildings that are glued together, which does not happen very often in New Zealand, but from what I've seen on Google Maps, it's actually a very ordinary thing to happen in London, or in the UK really. So I want to focus on this bit first, and if I have time and patience, I'll add into this bit, because I'm thinking that even though in reality the front of this building, of this part of the building, that bit, isn't the same as on the back in real life, it seems to actually be like a facade like this, and then about halfway through the building it gets another face, and then it gets a boring sort of bricky sort of face on this end, this side. But because I like consistency, I might just put a similar facade that's there on the quad on this side, and put it on this side, because it looks pretty. and probably do that up to sort of here, up to this corner, because this is meant to be a separate building, but I haven't decided what to do with this bit. And if that's not enough to do all of that and all of both sides of this, I have two courtyards, one here and one on the other side, to play with. I will see if I can research what's really in those courtyards. I believe one is a Japanese themed garden. But if I can't get any pictures of what it looks like, because Google Maps is completely useless for getting into those gardens, those courtyards, I might see if I can, there's quite a lot of, actually don't know what culture it is, but there's quite a lot of buildings that used to be made with a courtyard on the inside, like sort of monasteries, and I believe there's a version, I think it's Chinese style, so they've got like a square house with a courtyard in the middle, or like I think it's Roman actually, they do a similar thing. They have a courtyard and people go through an entrance into the courtyard and then into different parts of the house from the courtyard. So the courtyard actually functions more like a sitting room, but it's outside, obviously. So I'll research different kinds of courtyards, cultural courtyards, and see if I can replicate one or both, or have two separate, completely different themed ones. But I'll see if I can find snips, pictures of the real courtyards, to see if I can create them and go from there. So I think that's quite a lot to do for a video. I don't want it to be too long. My usual target is 15 minutes, and it usually gets to about, 20 minutes to 40 minutes. So we'll see what happens with the replay mode. So you get to do it the short way, I get to do it the long way. But cue the music. welcome back. So you might have noticed I've been playing with camera paths a little. The replan mod is quite fiddly, and it's quite difficult to, well, I find it difficult to drive. So I was playing with the view, the camera paths and the camera angles and everything, just to try and make these videos a little bit more interesting. But about halfway through, I realized the mod actually does that for you. You can actually just press a button and you can see through the eyes of this player without needing to play forever with the camera paths. So I could have just put my player here, switched the view, and then followed him down for the video without needing to do all of the... I think I spent about 2 hours on that camera pad. But it looks cool, and, you know, I'm learning. Learning is good. But it was fun to know, to figure out how to do it and have a go. So just, this is essentially the halfway point. Well, it probably won't be in time, but in activity. This time I'm trying to do replicas, not replicas. I'm trying to design my own buildings. Before I was trying to find replicas to make a version of, because it's harder to design without a prompt. So I spent about a day on Google Maps looking around at different building styles and different eras and different cities and locations, and it was really fun to look around, actually. My favorite era is Gothic and Neo-Gothic buildings, but most of them are really complicated and detailed, and fine detail is hard to do in Minecraft, because, you know, you're working with blocks, big blocks. I haven't learned enough to be able to replicate them, but it's been really fun to just do the research and learn and to grow my understanding of things and shapes. It really is quite an art rather than sort of a technical thing. But this build and the next two are not replicas. I'll give you a tour at the end, but they are designed. Some of them are based on it. The next two are based kind of loosely on two buildings I saw on Google Maps, but they are essentially my own design, which is why, actually, from now on, the camera angles, the order that I do building in is gonna look a bit... It looks very uneven to me. I like, you know, you look at the sped up videos and the little person goes zip zap zip zap, you know, left right left right left right left right, and you can see it coming out of nothing, but it doesn't really work this time, but that's okay. Well, you know, it's okay to not do things perfectly. So enough talking and blathering. On to the next two, or possibly there may be a video between the next one and the last one. Things can get complicated. So again, let us cue the music. Welcome back again. First I need to apologise for some of the camera shifts and angles of those last two buildings. Normally when I do a build that I know I'm definitely going to be recording, I do try to have a decent sense of what I'm doing so I can construct it in an orderly fashion. So it makes it speeding up and slowing down of the motion less sort of, motion sickness and producing. But between the fact that I did these buildings on the fly, just designing, but all of them were based on buildings that I saw. I thought, oh, that's a pretty elemental, that's a pretty elemental. What if I tried this? But I essentially just went with my gut and made stuff. So between the chaotic process of design on the fly and my new pain meds, which make my brain fog really bad, which in turn makes my ability to focus on one project or one part of a project at a time difficult. The camera angles and just the process of creation was all wobbly or jolty and higgledy-piggledy. So I'm sorry for that. It couldn't be helped. Just what it is. That said, I'm actually pretty happy with these builds, particularly this last one. I love the ceiling, even though it took 2 goes to make it work. Because if you do it on a different side, it's got a different pattern, slightly different pattern. Instead of circles, it's these sort of chevron-y shaped things. So I'm quite happy. I particularly like how the calcite and the quartz go together. It's just a nice sort of contrast. I really like the new calcite block. Now, recently I saw a video with another YouTuber who goes by Jera the Wizard, and they did this, they used gates. These are fence gates. They're actually fence gates to use underneath the surface, so it looks like a piece of wood or stone or whatever to support a little balcony. And I went, right, let's try this. And I think it looks really cool. I mean, the purple isn't quite, it clashes a little bit with the orange block, the granite, color-wise, but I like the look, the effect that it has. So I'm going to keep it. Hope you don't mind, Jera. Also, WC Build uses anvils for chimneys, which I think I might have mentioned previously in another video. And I think it's a he, got the idea in my head of using anvils for something other than anvils, and while it's very difficult to put something on top of them, because when you click on them, you open up, because it's not actually an object like a block, it's actually a thing that you can use, so you have to shift and then touch it. Oops. You have to do it in a particular way, and I had to build up. You would have seen in the video, I had to build up to get to that level to put something on top of it. But I like how it looks. Like, I saw this amazing balcony. I can't even remember where it was. I think it might have been New York, on my Google wander-about. And they had the most amazing pillar things. And I think it adds a decorative level, particularly on this scale. You can't put, the lattice work easily onto this. I had thought of using iron bars, but they have no pattern to them. But this adds an extra shape to them, which I really like. And I should mention also, the ceiling is also an object that you use for tools, smithing table, but the underside of it's really pretty. It's got red. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Up is down, but up is, it's got this sort of leather lattice work look. I like it, so I put it up there, which I enjoyed. Even though the video, I missed the frame with the video path. Sorry. I tried to make it work, but it just wouldn't. It's more chaotic to just design from the beginning, but I'm actually enjoying it a lot more. Even if I notice my errors more often as well. Now, as I've said before, I put the floors in off camera. This was completely empty, but I put the floors in off camera and made the ceilings. That didn't have a ceiling in it when it was at the end of the last video. And then as I was putting in the footpaths, with a little alley here next to the windows, which that building actually has. I'm not entirely sure what it means, but as I was putting in these, I realized that this is a road. I know that, you know, given what it looks like, that makes sense, but the original, the actual one on the UCL campus, it's not a road, it's a walkway between buildings for students. There's actually like a tunnel here in the big building, and you walk through the tunnel and get to other buildings. It's not actually a road. So I put in this tunnel off camera, just because I was doing it while I was doing the off camera stuff. And that gives room for traffic, for cars to get in there, because the rest of the original plan, you can't really get a car in there. But I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the problem? The problem with the tunnel that kept driving me nuts on their last build? It's the lanterns. They're not on the center. And the problem with that is it annoys me. I really like to have symmetrical things where possible, particularly things like tunnels. But a road, my roads are 5 meters, one lane is 5 meters wide. Two lanes is 5 meters on either side with one in the middle, so they're 11 wide. But if I made the tunnel 5 wide instead of 6 wide, it would put this in the middle, put the lanterns in the middle, but the rest of it, the rest of the building was not framed properly. And if you go back and you look at the video, you'll see of this build, you'll see me coming back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and trying to fiddle and trying to fix it, and it drove me a little bit crazy. I probably shouldn't say the word crazy, but you know what I mean. It bothered me so much, and it still bothers me. Those darn lanterns should be in the middle. But the rest of it looks much better at that scale, with that shape, with that number of width. And then you've also got a little tiny walkway for people to walk if they want. Yeah, it's not perfect. I don't like the fact it's out of center, but it actually looks like a tunnel when it's 6 wide and not 5. The 5 will look more like a V shape. Well, really, it was actually, you know, this size. A bit in the middle. But I can't change it. That's the best That's the lesser evil. Crooked lanterns, or a tunnel that looks totally askew. And sometimes when things are askew, they're askew deliberately and they look kind of cool, but it just drove me out of my brain. So I left it like this, and I will probably keep coming back to it and try and figure out how to do it better. I may even eat into this building, which is barely a building. But we'll just see what happens. Right. I was going to do 2 more buildings. So I was going to do this whole line from there to there. Not including that unless I get an amazing idea, which I still don't. That's probably... I was going to make that one building and then put another tunnel through it. Just, you know, because that's pretty much where the tunnel is in the real one. But I've run out of time, and I've had a pretty bad flare-up with my health this last couple of weeks. And I think it's better if I just post a video and then do like part 2 next time. Because this is just as much as I can do. So I hope it's interesting. I really did quite enjoy the creative process of making the details on these builds. Even if this one was a little bit difficult. I really like how it looks. Now, remember, if you have a building that you love, that you want to see put into this game, let me know. Give me a link, or just give me the name or whatever, and I'll have a go. I mean, if it's a big project, I'll put it on a list and get to it eventually. Because like this one's taken like 2 months. 2 months to do just the main quad and the sides. But yeah, if you let me know if there's a building that you want to see, there's lots of space in my city build for new buildings. And one person cannot build an entire city on their own without any inspiration. So, well, I welcome suggestions. Right, so, Ara ni tasa.